was in a separate section from the qualitative analysis. But they had some good quotes, too, for the qualitative. And they had a good visual figure for the qualitative theme analysis, and here's what it looked like. They said that when people come back, there are personal issues of taking in the community. There are issues of relating to the community, and there's issues of letting go of some of their feelings of anxiety and separation. When I read this article, I thought it was a good mixed method study. It's an illustration of migration, which I think is an issue in Indonesia too. The reason why I chose this article is I just had finished reading a book by a friend of mine, soon to be published, on migrant workers in Sri Lanka. And this book focuses on the women in Sri Lanka that go to the Middle East and work, and some of them come back to Sri Lanka. But many of their stories are very sad stories. Hard work, abuse, loneliness from their families. So I was interested in this idea of migration. When I looked at this as a mixed method study, I thought there were some parts missing. In fact, the three major parts that I consider most important are these. Integration. Now, integration means after you've collected and analyzed your quantitative data and after you've collected and analyzed your qualitative, you start connecting the two in a very rigorous way. So integration was important. And from that integration, you get more information than what you collected just from your quantitative or your qualitative. More insight. So they missed that opportunity to talk about the insight. And then I was looking for some detail on their mixed methods design. And they did have a convergent, a concurrent design. They mentioned that. But they didn't discuss their procedures for doing it. Now, here is an article in Nursing that was published in a good journal that addressed an important problem that had several major parts of mixed methods, but there were parts missing. You know, they could have had a diagram like this, where they show the quantitative part on the left side and the qualitative on the right side, a diagram of the procedures to help develop the detail of these procedures. They could have spoken about how integration occurred when you put the two together. And they could have talked about the additional insight that resulted from the integration. So are you with me so far? Okay? Absolutely clear? Okay. Well, what are these insights? Well, when you collect quantitative and qualitative, you can compare the two databases. Or they could have started with, quantitative and qualitative, and then looking for ways in which the qualitative and the quantitative were different. They could have done some qualitative research first to develop a survey instrument that would fit the Filipino people rather than a Western instrument. In fact, we need Indonesian instruments. We need to adapt Western instruments when we do mixed methods in Indonesia. We could have looked at both how the participants experienced the transition back to the Philippines from abroad. A process. We could have looked at process. So then I found an article on the value of developing a mixed methods program of research, published in the Nursing Science Quarterly in 2017. Have you read this? So the nurses are talking about the importance of mixed methods around the world. And this article by the author Simonovich points out the strengths and the weaknesses of quantitative and qualitative research. The strengths, well, quantitative, it can be systematic and you can adjust for biases. Some of the weaknesses, aspects of specific patient care not easily measured, and the context in which people talk about the problem is often not measured. Qualitative research has its strengths. You can gather true-to-life stories, personal experiences of people. It's flexible, and you can create new questions if your original questions are not accurate or good. I always say this: if you've not done a qualitative study, try it. I've worked with many medical doctors and people in my field of family medicine who are new to qualitative research. And when they do their first qualitative study, they're amazed to learn the personal stories and the level of detail. You know, statistical values, p-values, effect sizes, confidence intervals, those are important. But when you start hearing the voice of people, you get to a whole new level of research. Some people say the weaknesses of qualitative are it can't be generalized, it can't be replicated, and also the relationship may have some bias in it because the researcher is very close to the participants. I started as a quantitative researcher, and after 10 years, I started teaching qualitative. And after another 10 years, I started doing mixed methods because I saw the value of both quantitative and qualitative. Well, what is this mixed methods idea? What is it? You know, historically, especially in the Western world, in England and in Europe and in America, we kept quantitative and qualitative databases separate. We collected both forms of data, but when we analyzed it, we kept them separate. Mixed methods actually bridges between the quantitative and qualitative. It provides a bridge across. So how would I define mixed methods research? It's when the researcher collects and analyzes both quantitative and qualitative data, uses rigorous systematic procedures, good qualitative research and good quantitative research, integrates the two forms of research, uses a specific design, mixed methods design, and then often uses theory and philosophy to frame the research. It took me 15 years to come up with this list because mixed methods has evolved over time. And I can now actually draw a picture of this now. So we're going to collect quantitative and qualitative data, step one. We're going to use rigorous procedures of sampling and data analysis. We're going to combine the two databases. So in this case, we first do surveys, and then we follow up with some interviews to explain the survey results. So we're going to integrate between the two databases. We're going to put this within a design. We're going to call it a name. And these names started roughly about 2003. So they've been out there for almost 20 years. It's planetary sequential design. And if we have a theory, we might have like a theory of behavioral change. Or in that Filipino article, they had a theory of adaptation when people came back to the Philippines. In this case, the theory of behavioral change informs the quantitative approach. We're collecting both quantitative and qualitative data, open-ended and closed-ended data. Surveys and quantitative, surveys, instruments, observational checklists, reports. Qualitative data, open-ended data, open-ended interviews, open-ended observations, documents. We have social media, audiovisual material. People are using Facebook posts, email posts, website, main pages. Qualitative is exploding in terms of the sources of data. You can even use sounds. So, I went to a funeral of a major leader in our city. And he had been a school administrator. And for 15 minutes, they played some sounds. What do you think they played? Sounds from the playground of children laughing and talking to each other. Sounds can even be an important source of qualitative data. And then we integrate. So my wife came up with this bread loaf idea. Let's say you're going to make some bread, and in it you put raisins. You integrate the raisins into the bread. And then you have flour and sugar and eggs. And these ingredients come together to form a loaf of bread. Are you getting hungry? You've had your snack already. Okay. So what we do in qualitative mixed methods research is we use numbers and stories. There's multiple ways of knowing. We give equal weight to quantitative and qualitative. Mixed methods is not superior to qualitative research or to quantitative. It's just another approach. It's called the third approach. And the way we're doing mixed methods is continually expanding. And if you use mixed methods, I think you're using one of the most recent, sophisticated methodologies that would appeal to a global audience, that would appeal to an international journal. Basically, we're combining quantitative research and qualitative research and coming up with something added. 1 plus 1 is not 2, but it's 3. That additional insight. So when you talk to people about mixed methods, talk about integration and additional insight. So how did this methodology develop? There's a time period. Well, I would have to say it's about 30 years old. 30 years old. Back between 1985 and 1990, there were about 9 people that came together to help form this. Some of the researchers were from education, evaluation, a nursing researcher, Jan Morris, a family medicine researcher, an evaluator researcher. These people were not talking to each other, but they all came to the same idea that why do we keep quantitative and qualitative separate? Why don't we start putting them together? Why don't we start integrating them in our studies? So then the book started to be developed by 1998. There's a major handbook on mixed methods research in 2003. In 2007, the Journal of Mixed Methods Research started. In 2011, in the U.S., the National Institute of Health commissioned a special panel to put together the best practices. There was an international journal formed in 2013, or an international association, the Mixed Methods International Research Association. It then expanded, so there are regional conferences all over the world. This is the one in Indonesia. There'll be one in Japan in 2 weeks. There'll be one in New Zealand at Wellington in December. I came from one in Jamaica last March. So it's expanding around the world. There's a training program in the U.S. to train health researchers in mixed methods research. I put this program together with my colleagues at Harvard and Johns Hopkins. We have trained 60 mixed methods researchers in the health sciences, and we're about ready to train another 60. So 120 leading scholars in America are getting in-depth training in mixed methods. And then the American Psychological Association has become interested. So I'm going to show you some of these things. So the idea was, let's bridge across mixed methods, and different groups of people came into this field and began developing it. And here are probably the two founders. Jennifer Green at the University of Illinois in evaluation, and the late Alan Brightman in England. He was a major force. But I've listed here a number of the people in sociology, in the social sciences, in nursing and medicine that all had a hand in thinking about mixed methods research. So this field started taking off. First, there were a few people that began thinking about how to do mixed methods research. There were books that started to come. There was a journal that developed. There was an association that began. The association began to expand around the world. And in the U.S., the federal government became involved in training. This is how a methodology develops, a new methodology. And what makes this methodology different than older methodologies developed, like meta-analysis. If you take quantitative meta-analysis, it started in the 1960s, 1970s, mainly through people presenting at some conferences. Contrast that to today. Mixed methods has the internet. We have a Facebook page on mixed methods. We just sent out a Twitter notice to over 900 people about our workshop coming up in Osaka. We have webinars, a whole series of webinars on mixed methods research. So what makes this different is that this methodology is growing up past childhood, adolescence into adulthood, through the computer digital age. So you can see in the United States how the funding for mixed methods has increased. There's a number of people that are studying how mixed methods projects are being funded. And you can see here that the number is going up and up over the years. And I would have to say the leading institute for mixed method studies at NIH is the Nursing Institute. Also NIMH, the Mental Health Institute. Also the Aging Institute. Also the Cancer Institute. Also the Diabetes Institute. All of these institutes are becoming involved. And so there's no great surprise that by 2011, and I co-chaired this commission. NIH set up the Best Practices for Mixed Methods Research in Health Science Commission. Have you seen this website? The document was put on the website. At the bottom here, and I'm giving these slides to Hema so she can make them available. When this came up on a website in 2011, there were 20,000 hits on this website in 2 weeks. And now, today, it is the most heavily hit website at NIH. And this came out with guidelines for how researchers could do mixed methods, and also how people could write proposals for funding. So these are the guidelines for funding. And then by 2015, we started our training program at Harvard and Johns Hopkins. I tell you, some of the best scholars in the United States come to this program. Unfortunately, it's not been open to international scholars. But I'm working on this, and I hope to encourage NIH to open it up. I would love to see some scholars from Indonesia in this mix. And then I want to tell you about a recent development in the last year or so. You may not know about this, but it is a major step forward for qualitative research and for mixed methods research. So the American Psychological Association created a commission. And there were about 7 of us on this commission. A couple of mixed methods people, and the rest were qualitative people. And we put together what we call standards for doing good qualitative research and good mixed methods. It was reported in the American Psychologist in the first issue in 2018. Have you seen that? So now the world community is learning about mixed methods research. And did you know that this October, just 2 months, there'll be a new APA style manual. And for the first time in the history of the style manual, there'll be a complete section on qualitative research and on mixed methods research. And as we know, people all over the world, in both the social sciences and health sciences, refer to the style manual. So this is a major development. And in that article, we talk about how you would actually compose a mixed methods journal article, a journal article that uses mixed methods research for an American Psychological Journal. This is a list right here. Well, what's also happened are the books have expanded way beyond those early days. There must be somewhere around 30 or 35 books on mixed methods research. You notice how I put my book on a concise introduction, down on the right, in a prominent place where you can see it. Okay, if you're starting mixed methods research, that's a joke. Yeah, it's a joke. If you're starting mixed methods research, look at that concise introduction book. Actually, there are some scholars in Indonesia that want to translate that into Indonesian language. It's been translated into 17 or 18 languages. It's in Japanese. It's being used in Japanese. But it's a short read, and it speaks directly to the major components of mixed methods research. But all these books kind of have a different approach. Some are more philosophy-oriented, some are more procedures-oriented, some are more oriented towards women's issues, some are more oriented towards transforming communities. So we have a large number of books. And the empirical articles, the database articles, have expanded. A couple of years ago, my colleague Plano Clark said that her team had counted over 6,000 mixed methods articles. And there are a lot of articles in nursing journals and dealing with nursing topics. And then there are articles that address how to do mixed methods research. So this article on the right, how to do mixed methods research if you're doing trauma research. How to do mixed methods research if you're doing family medicine research. How to do mixed methods research if you're doing nursing research. We call these methodological articles. And there's a journal in Michigan, the Journal of Mixed Methods Research. I'd like to see some Indonesian articles published in this. And I help review the articles. And Dr. Fetters is my colleague at Michigan. And then the International Association. Go up to their website and you can join this association, become part of the world mixed methods community. And I started thinking about how mixed methods has expanded around the world. Certainly in the United States, in England, in South Africa, in Europe, in Australia, in Japan, in Thailand, in Indonesia, in New Zealand, and this is just the start. Because we're going to Beijing, in China, in December. We'll be in Singapore, speaking in January. We'll be in Berlin in February. So it's beginning to take off around the world. I'll make this final section short on procedures. But what happened is a complete methodology developed. If you have a problem where you can use both quantitative and qualitative data, then come up with a type of design. We know how to write a mixed methods title, how to choose a specific type of design, how to draw these diagrams of design, how to discuss validity, how to discuss integration, how to portray integration and joint displays, how to write articles, how to write mixed methods questions, how to use theory. The big area in mixed methods is these designs. And we have names for these: a convergent design, where you collect quantitative, qualitative, and merge the data and integrate in that merging. Here's a diagram from a published study on a convergent design. And that Filipino article was a convergent design. They could have had a drawing just like this. And they could have put together a joint display. And this joint display is a table that puts together the qualitative themes and the quantitative data. And this joint display is about colorectal cancer screening. It was published in the Annals of Family Medicine. But you see up at the top, across the top, are the various qualitative themes. And then also the change from baseline to a follow-up for the colorectal cancer screening. Explanatory. This is a good starting design. You start with a survey or some other instrument, gather data, and you have really interesting p-values and statistical results. But you don't know why those results occurred. So let's follow up qualitatively with some interviews or focus groups. This is a very popular design. And our integration is right here between the two. We're going to integrate our results from the quantitative with the data collection from the qualitative. Here's a diagram I showed yesterday in the workshop. It's a popular design. People are using it as an example. for an explanatory sequential project. An exploratory sequential design is a little bit more complicated. We're first going to explore, mainly to learn about the community, the context, the culture. If I were to study migration here in Indonesia, I would use this design. I would first start with some focus groups or interviews and talk to some government officials. I might talk to the governor from West Sumatra, or the dean, or officials. And I might talk to health workers. And I might talk to people who have actually migrated from Indonesia to work in other countries. And then I could develop an instrument to measure social connectedness or to measure depression that would be culturally sensitive. And then I tested it out quantitatively. So the projects in global health that I work on at Harvard are all using this design. Right now they are in the sub-Sahara area of Africa working, Sierra Leone. They started with qualitative focus groups and then built sensitive measures that responded to the cultural needs. The integration comes right here between the qualitative initial phase and the quantitative follow-up. I won't go into this in detail because my time is short, but you can also put qualitative data into an experiment or intervention trial. It's a very popular mixed methods design at the National Institute of Health. And I can put it in before, during, and after. I can actually do a case study research project where I collect both quantitative and qualitative data and merge the results to compare cases. I might do a community-based project where I first start quantitatively with a survey and follow up qualitatively, but I have the community people help me design the study. Community-based participatory research. Or I might do a program evaluation where I first start qualitatively and then gather quantitative data and then move through quantitative and qualitative, connecting the two to evaluate a program. And also in recent years, mixed methods validity has surfaced. And we talked about it in terms of the designs. So in convergent designs, there's issues, challenges you need to pay attention to. So what are some of the challenges in doing this form of research? First of all, you need the skills of quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods research. You need to understand the basic features of mixed methods: insight, integration, and design. If you're in the social sciences, there's going to be a slightly different approach than in the health sciences. You need to be aware of some of the philosophies that people are talking about that provide the foundation for this method. And it's labor intensive. You're gathering both quantitative and qualitative data. So one of the deans here had a conversation with me about, is this design, is this methodology suitable for master's level students? My answer was yes. You don't have to have a large qualitative part. You need a larger quantitative. You could use a national database and follow up qualitatively. So there are ways to do this at different levels. And collaboration. If you don't have the skills, collaborate with someone who has the skills that you need. This was a study group in Boston. And the quantitative people sat on this side of the room, and the qualitative people sat on this side of the room. And where did John Cresswell sit? in the middle, because mixed methods, I was going back and forth between quantitative and qualitative. And if you need to learn more about qualitative research, why don't you come to Osaka, Japan? Mariko and I are having a qualitative grounded theory workshop. And we've invited one of the leading grounded theory researchers to come. And on this slide, you can see the email address to get more information. And here's something I'm very excited about. So in our Mixed Methods program at Michigan, we got some funds to support women leaders being trained in mixed methods research, and people from both developing and developed countries. So we have money to bring you to Michigan. And you can go up to this website and look at the application. Each year, we bring 16 international scholars to one of our Michigan workshops. The next one is in November. And then we have one in March. And then we have a third one in June. And we're going to be having international scholars come from around the world to learn mixed methods research. This could be you. And this is how I am. So, terima kasih.
Thank you so much, for the presentation that opened our mind to probably to the next research in mixed method design. Okay, now we are coming to the discussion. So let's be open for probably for two person to ask. Probably there is something to discuss with Mr. Creswell. The ladies with green gown, and then next.
Of course, if I can't answer them, I'm going to ask Michelle to respond.
Okay. Two. Please come please give the microphone to the ladies with green gown. Maybe you can come to the microphone.
Okay.
Take it down.
Okay, thank you very much for the chance to introduce myself. My name is Andalas. I would like to ask for two questions. The first question is about the exploratory sequential design that we did the quantitative first, and then the qualitative, right? And then the qualitative result will generalize the result of the quantitative results. And my question is how if the quantitative result cannot generalize the qualitative results, and how to interpret our results in the paper. And then you mentioned about the development of instrument, right? It means that you did the psychometric study to develop your instrument. Thank you.
Do you do the psychometric study to the question?
So you have an exploratory sequential design, and you started by gathering qualitative data. How many people?
No, I just wonder how if our hypothesis cannot be reached, and then we would like to our result in the paper.
She's saying that how if the quantitative cannot generalize in that.
Yes. Cannot explain the result from the qualitative. Because it should be integrated, right? So I would like to ask about that.
So your hypothesis was not supported,
Yes.
and you're wondering now how do you go about presenting that, talking about that. Why? Why wasn't the hypothesis supported? Was it because of the measures that you used? Or was it because did your qualitative first phase, let's talk in terms of phases, qualitative first phase, did that help you build the instrument? In exploratory sequential design, there's 3 phases. A qualitative exploration. You then use that information to design something quantitatively, like an instrument, or intervention experiment, or a survey instrument. And then in the 3rd phase, you test that out. And what you're telling me that in your test, in the 3rd phase, your hypothesis is not supported. And so your question is, why? What might explain it? I think your measures may not be as good as they could be, psychometric measures. Possibly there was not that integration connection between your qualitative and the design of the instrument. That's a possibility. You could continue to gather more qualitative data to help explain why that hypothesis was not supported. That might be what I would do if you can find resources. Because the quantitative hypothesis was driven by what you learned qualitatively in the first phase. So follow up qualitatively. That's what I would recommend. So your design is qualitative, designing an instrument, testing an instrument, and then following up qualitatively, a 4-phase project. That would work. It's still exploratory sequential design. As the main intent is to develop a culturally sensitive measurement instrument. Good. Now, what was this question? Oh, the psychometric study. Yeah. You know, when you develop an instrument, it's a very rigorous process. Now, there's a book by Andalas on scale development, where he takes us through 11 steps in developing a good psychometric instrument with good psychometric properties. And so I always encourage people to use a very rigorous approach to develop their instrument. An alternative is to find an instrument and adapt it based upon what you learned in the first qualitative phase. But follow the guidelines for rigorous psychometric instrument development. And I often use the Sage Andalas book.
Okay, thank you.
Good luck with your research.
Okay, thank you. The next.
Thank you. My name is Kuswini from University of Andalas. Actually, my question is related to my yesterday project that I presented. When you suggested of mixed method proposed, to be honest, up till now I don't have really idea what is that. How this example of forming the mixed method proposed. Maybe you could give some example of that. And the second one, if we use one of the mixed method form, it's like convergent or explanatory or explanatory. Can we change that along the way? I mean, when we think that probably it's not really, fit of this research, and then we want to change, can we do that in mixed method? And then,
Great question.
yeah, I think that's all. Thank you.
Good. Your first question was, how do you develop a proposal for a mixed method study?
The propose, the aim, yeah, the questions, like objectives, like yesterday said, I have a aim for my quantitative study, I have an aim for my qualitative study, I should have an aim for my mixed method study, which is, I don't really have any idea how to formulate the question.
The mixed methods question. Okay, so in a research study, we recommend, and NIH recommends, 3 types of questions. The qualitative question, the quantitative question, and the mixed methods question. And mixed methods question is a new type of research question that many people don't know about. But basically, you're writing a question that addresses what you hope to find in the integration. So the mixed methods question in explanatory sequential design would be, how do the qualitative findings help explain the quantitative? That's the integration. So some people say we should stop calling it a mixed methods question, but the integration question. What are we attempting to do, to find when we integrate? Right?
And the second one, can we change the method? I mean, like, for example, we already choose to use convergence for our study, in mixed method study. Then we think that probably I need to do the explanatory or exploratory. Can it possible be?
Can you change the design? Sure.
Along the way.
I think the way we talk about it in our books is that mixed methods can either be fixed, planned in advance before you conduct the study, or it can emerge. And there are many mixed methods projects that change and emerge over time. It might start as an explanatory sequential design and end up as a convergent design. So, yes, just as in qualitative research, there's flexibility to change the design, to change the approach. And so we talk about fixed designs and emerging designs in the Cresswell-Plano-Clark book.
So what we are going to write in our report or in manuscript, like, this is the conclusion or the end of when we decided which one, the one that we will write down.
So what do you write in the report?
For the manuscript, for example, because we have to be clear which
Yes.
method that we're going to use.
Well, I think you take a stand and decide which one is best. But then say, possibly, because of this reason, and this reason, the design may change. It's good. I always think for graduate students to take a stand first and then mention the possibility of things changing for certain reasons. That's my stance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. Big applause for Mr. President. I hope the session will open our mind as a nurse probably to do the mixed method research, because I think that very huge data that we can gather through mixed method design. So I think this is the end of the first session of keynote speaker. Thank you so much for your attention. And thank you so much for Mr. Creswell for the session. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Professor John W. Creswell, please remain seated on the stage because there is a placard hand given from the Professor Dr. Mahmud as the Dean of Faculty of Nursing, Andalas University, to Professor John W. Creswell. And for Nurse Rika Fatmauduna, thank you so much for being moderator for this first plenary session. Well, thank you so much, Professor John W. Creswell and also Professor Mahmud. Please have a seat. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the first plenary session by our one and only Professor John W. Creswell, Mixed Meta founder. And for the next plenary session, we will get a lecture from Professor Michelle Cleary from University of Tasmania, Australia, and the moderator for this plenary session will be led by Dr. Oscar Maraman Turina. Dr. Oscar, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, konnichiwa, mabuhay, and good morning. Welcome to the second plenary session. My name is Oscar from the University of Nizwa, Sultanate of Oman, and I will be serving as your moderator for this session. You will be hearing in a few minutes a presentation which is a very timely topic on taking research to the worldwide stage. Tips and tricks for building a research profile and writing for publication. But before we get started, allow me to introduce the plenary speaker, Professor Michelle Cleary. Michelle Cleary is Professor of Mental Health Nursing and the Associate Head Global School of Nursing at the University of Tasmania in Sydney, Australia. Professor Cleary leads the Mental and Critical Care Health Research Node, which is a collaborative program of original research that aims to improve professional practice, consumer care, and training across key domains, including mental health, burns, and critical care. Her team performs a series of systematic reviews and other research studies across a number of different mental health critical care domains in order to assess current practice, risk factors, prevalence, and significance. Professor Pili also provides advice and consultation to a variety of departments and organizations in relation to policies, guidelines, and program development. She also supervises higher research students while maintaining strong research partnerships. She shares her research through papers, editorials, book chapters, and presenting at conferences and major meetings. She also contributes to the field of mental health nursing in her roles as editor of the International Journal of Mental Health Nursing, as an associate editor and column editor of issues in mental health nursing, and author in residence of nurse author and editor, and editorial advisor of nursing and health sciences. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome Professor Michelle Leary.
Hi everybody, it's good to be back, and dean, distinguished guests and colleagues. My congratulations again to the conference organisers. It's been a terrific experience. The conference has been really fantastic. I was asked to talk about taking research to a worldwide stage, and so what I'm going to do today is share some of the tips that we found as a team very helpful in doing that, and also to draw upon some of the work that we've published in this area. So the references will be at the bottom of each overhead, but if anybody would like more information following my presentation, I'm around today and tomorrow, so I'm very happy to talk about on the basis. So essentially today I'm going to cover three areas. First is establishing a research scholarly profile. The second is looking at quality and integrity in light of the publication. And the third will be using our ARC node, which is the Mental and Critical Care Health Research node. I'm going to show how we put together our program of research and promote that. So as I understand it, people here in the room are probably at different levels of careers, so we've probably got some people that have undertaken graduate studies, and I think this cartoon illustrates it really well, where it might be experimental literature review stage, looking at funding, scoping, or perhaps you completed your PhD in a suffering PhD guilt, where your enjoyment of non-work activities and thinking I should be working. There's also the post-PhD research agenda, which is, as this cartoon illustrates, the evolution of intellectual freedom, which starts with I'm going to research whatever I want, through I'm going to research whatever my professor wants, to I'm going to research whatever my tenure committee wants, or whatever the grant committee wants, to I'm going to research whatever, and then resting in peace, which is researching peace. So many people have graduate studies that are research related, and the question with regards to this is what is it that you can really do? It's really important to know your strengths. So with your life ambition, the world here you come, you might have thought about maybe winning a Nobel Peace Prize, to getting a job at a university, maybe attending a conference, or hoping they have pepperoni pizza, but it's really important to define your own career and your research journey at the outset. So one of the lessons that's been really important for us is to work with strengths and to actually work out what it really is that you want to do, why you actually study, what projects, what research do you want to undertake, what is your area, your skill base, are you good at qualitative research, quantitative research, is your area of expertise in oncology, mental health, diabetes, so that you become known as an expert in that area. And this can really help to motivate you as well. So we're all going to have some weaknesses, and we don't have to explicitly admit to these. Because teams are very important when you undertake research, and it's important to play to your strengths. And one of the key elements with our work that we've undertaken as a group is having really strong, robust research teams. And I'm going to show you some case studies a little further into the presentation. And within those teams, interdisciplinary collaboration, trust and respect is essential. It's really important to have realistic expectations as well. People have work and life, and it's good to get a balance so that you actually enjoy the work that you undertake. And it's really important as well when we undertake research that what we choose to do is consistent with our interests, our skills, and our values. So in terms of, should you specialise in one particular area, there's always room for us to grow. But one of the things that we found really useful is to make sure that we have projects that are aligned to national strategies. So for example, at the moment, suicide in mental health is a very, very big topic. It's actually across a lot of the journals at the moment, the editorials, it's been a very big focus. We've got Suicide Prevention Day coming up, actually next week. So we found this year, for example, a lot of grants in Australia have been around the topic of suicide. So it's good to specialise in particular areas. It's also good to stretch ourselves a little and to learn new skills and work in different teams as well. And if we take a broad path, it can really help us to get specific expertise and impact our own domain, as well as to have some stretch goals and develop skills in other areas. So one of the key things is reputation with research. It's an ever-present reality of life. And it's actually defined by the Ethics Resource Centre as one of the organisation's greatest assets. And a good reputation can be the most important. It's also one of the easiest things to lose as well, and it's very challenging to maintain. So a reputation is the general estimation in which a person is held by the public or the state or the situation being held in high esteem, or a specific characteristic or trait ascribed to a person or thing. So we know that we have reputations in lots of areas. For example, universities, some might have a very high reputation and ranked very high, and some may be lower on the scale of rankings. Same with our journals. We often rank them, don't we, by impact factors, or we rank them whether they're Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So it's just an ever-present reality of life. So in terms of being a researcher, the way we work and the sort of research we undertake is a really important element of reputation. And it's important, therefore, that we actually disseminate our research outcomes. And we can do that via traditional means, such as journals, or we can do it in other ways as well, through conferences, blogs, sharing in newsletters. There's lots of different ways. And a positive reputation means that you're performing at high standards, you're well regarded in the industry. But one of the issues with this is often the quiet achievers, the people that work very hard behind the scenes, but don't always disseminate their work. Sometimes their work can go unacknowledged and people don't realise the good work that's happening. So it's really important that we recognise that as well. It's also a matter of achieving a balance, and I think that this picture here really demonstrates that, between being too confident, perhaps arrogant, and having a right degree of humility as well, and self-depreciation. So it can be a little bit of a juggling act as well. Clearly we want to promote our work and the work our teams are doing, but we don't want to get arrogant about it. So as mentioned, there's a number of factors that influence our reputation. And simple things, as we know, we've got unprofessional, that can be a negative impact, or if we're not properly trained or supervised, then we might make mistakes. So it's really important to have a reputation, and a lot of those characteristics that are important include having credibility, competence, and trustworthiness. But also, we have to be a little bit politically savvy and be able to work with stakeholders and key people to be able to influence and promote our work in a positive fashion. So that means we have to manage up, we have to manage down, and we have to manage across as well. So we also need a degree of positioning our work and deciding where it's best fitting. So in terms of collaborations and building networks and coalitions, they're really important. But there's also a set of skills that go with that, and that's where it can be really useful to get a really good coach or a mentor, somebody that can guide and assist and support you. Or similarly, get involved in a good research team or a good productive team, and there's opportunities there for mentoring. Sometimes we see too, I'm not sure if it's how active they are in your workplace, but certainly in health services and universities, often there's public relations departments, people that can help provide media statements if you have research or you want to share something external to the organisation. And they're the sorts of resources that we can draw upon. But in order to promote our work, this can be quite time-consuming, particularly if we use social media as well. And we actually need to take some time out because it takes some effort to undertake. So once we start doing it, it's important that we maintain it. So stuff that have quality and productive outcomes, for example, good quality journals and established collaborations, often are known as good colleagues and good team players. And it's really important then that collaborative research relationships, they can actually provide opportunity to build a positive reputation as well. Because a lot of the emphasis now when we undertake the measurements around reputations and taking research and sharing it is around quality and quantity, as well as making sure that we have research that has impact and translates to improve better health outcomes for everybody. So just in summary, building a professional reputation requires solid characteristics. So there's credibility, confidence and trustworthiness. We have to be politically savvy. We need skills, self-promotion and positioning, and a reputation essentially is a shorthand to what we can do, and it's important that we don't pay too much attention to reputation at the risk of compromising the standard of our work. Once we achieve a reputation, it does need maintenance to remain healthy and strong, and that can take some time and be somewhat arduous and demanding. So having said that, there's a lot of profile building opportunities that we can use to build our reputation, and it's really important that we think about what we do. So there's electronic platforms that are often free in which we can share our research, and again, it can take time to upkeep and maintain these. And so we need to think about how best to engage with these in a savvy way. So we need to be strategic in the selection of platforms that we wish to use, and how that can impact and influence future collaborations. This picture's really good. You then instruct the intruder with the bound PhD thesis. This is the prosecuting study, and the person says yes, it was research with impact. And that takes me into the next area because now it's a natural segue hard to predict what research or what papers we publish, what sort of interest it's going to garner. Sometimes we might think this is the most amazing paper, and it's really hard to get it across the line in a journal. And other times we think, oh, this is a fairly straightforward study, and yet it gets picked up and cited lots of times, you know. Sometimes we can't predict the interest, and that's why we just call it a sleeping beauty. Some of our work may not get picked up, but we consider others may get picked up. Sometimes it's very hard to predict. So who's heard of the H-index here? Anybody? The H-index is a widely used measure, and it's used to assess researchers' output. And there's a whole range of databases where you can calculate a H-index. Web of Science, Scopus, and Google Scholar can be utilised for this calculation. And the H-index is the highest number of authored articles by an author researcher that's been cited H or more times. So if I had a H-index of 4, what does that mean? I had 4 papers cited 4 times. If I had a H-index of 10, it would mean I have 10 papers that have been cited 10 times. So as you can see, it gets harder to grow a H-index as well. It's not an easy feat. And nursing is quite difficult. There's so much work out there to be cited. It often takes a lot of work to get citations as well. There is some difference between H-indexes. So Google Scholar, for example, because it uses grey literature, the H-index will be higher than what Scopus would be. One thing, though, with the cartoon states it well is there's somebody saying to the student, make sure you cite all of my papers. And then somebody states that the Chancellor wants this is self-citation to increase his H-index, and then there's the references, and he says, I have over 1,000 self-citations. When we calculate the H-index, we click a box and we remove our self-citations, so we can't fudge it. So you can see if you self-cite a lot, it's automatically removed. So who here has a site on ResearchGate? Fantastic, great to see. It's an absolutely fabulous resource. You can build networks and communities. If people start to follow, often you follow that. You can see what's happening. Often you may get requests from people for articles. It's not recommended that you post articles on ResearchGate because it's in breach of copyright, but authors can send them privately should they choose to. This is a snapshot, a screenshot of my ResearchGate. So it allows individuals and institutions to disseminate their work, and it also provides a non-metric, not dissimilar to the H-index, but it's not something that's often quoted because they use an algorithm that it's very hard to replicate. We've published a paper on ResearchGate in Nurse, Author and Editor that's open access if anybody's interested in learning more. And just to reinforce that, publishing houses for the open access, they provide a fee and it's open access, and that doesn't impede copyright, but publicly posting an article where you signed a copyright agreement can be in breach, and I would recommend. The other great place to show your work, and I've just taken a screenshot of our university page, is we put a photo up and then we have some career highlights, research, publications, funding and supervision. So I've only been at the University of Tasmania now for about 4 years, so this has the work from those 4 years for my publications, funding and supervision. It's specific to my time there Who here has a courses number? Yeah, fantastic. Those that don't, just think about getting one. Again, often it's required now by institutions, and we find too, you'd be surprised how many people throughout the world have the same name as me, as do others. So it's a way that our work gets brought in under the anything posted, you should consider public because and we need to be mindful that work can be at times misconstrued, misinterpreted, or even taken out of context. So we should be mindful about longer term impact on what we believe. And the posts are never really anonymous as well, they are indexed as well. So it's important to monitor your online presence and reputation. So a couple of other ways in terms of building a scholarly profile and research impact is we've mentioned publications and presentations, and I've heard today and yesterday people talk about writing reports and working papers with all services that you think as well-brain literature. We've just spoken a little about professional accounts on Twitter, Facebook, perhaps professional blogs, and also the importance of having a university, a research ID, and perhaps a Google Scholar web page as well. And also we need to think about things like professional magazines, newsletters, and publications. Public media releases as well, using our services at our workplace, and being actively involved in professional organisations and attending conferences like this one as well. Another really great way to build a scholarly profile is to accept invitations to review journals where there's some expertise in that area, because there's now publics where it's actually recognised publicly and maintains a record. So that's really fantastic. You're able to demonstrate your commitment and involvement in peer review. And also looking about community engagement with forums, presentations and advisory roles. And we've heard as well the importance of our research in terms of guidelines, government, stakeholder involvement. So it's important that we can engage externally with government and through advisory roles, and also through various board and committee memberships as well, such as non-government organisations. So I'm just going to now move into the second section and just talk briefly about quality papers and a couple of typical questions that people often ask me, which are important in terms of sharing your work as well. And we all know what the hallmarks of a quality paper are. We spoke about this yesterday, but just to refresh, it's about adding to the field through original and innovative research and expanding or challenging current knowledge, opening up additional areas of further research, and reflecting critically on findings. So peer review is a really important part of the process, and it's worth remembering that many editors, board members and reviewers, people provide their services voluntarily and in their own time, which is really great. And it great literature isn't always peer-reviewed, it's important, but sometimes it's not given as much kudos for that reason as perhaps what a journal article would be. So, for example, in our work-based book chapter, isn't quite at the same level as a journal article in a Q1. But feedback should always be constructive and supportive. So this is two examples of cartoons around peer review where somebody says, oh, it's who writes these reviews, the guy's dog, and we have a dog doing the peer review, I'm sorry, the jigsaw, or the process, the other one is the process. And this is another one, everyone gets in as long as they behave scientifically. But no matter what, we do need to be thick-skinned, and here's an example of a cartoon that dear contributor, I think you submitted your story, to set a time where it encloses two rejections scripts, one for the story and one for the next story presented. And it is important to remember that all of us get papers that are peer review, challenging feedback, and papers that are rejected, and we do need to be tenacious and continue on. So just to refresh, yesterday I mentioned the Committee in Publishing Ethics, so it's really important the work we undertake complies with that. This is a great resource. And also to make sure our work complies with the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors. Just going to skip a couple of slides because I've only got about 10 minutes left. So I also want to mention here about slicing papers and salami slicing or redundant publication. It's extremely important if you're publishing multiple studies from the same study that each makes a clear distinction to the topic and that we're not repeating the same sort of information. And so we therefore need to cross-reference previous papers highlighting the original contribution of each paper. And we also need to make note in the letter to the editor if other work is under preparation or planned or will be published work. There's an editorial here that's open access that explains the process, so if you're unsure, this can provide some guidance. And the equator guidelines I mentioned yesterday. The prisoner, we've seen some great diagrams yesterday with the meta-analysis that our colleague from Thailand presented. And another resource that I would like to share with you is nurse, author and editor. I've just taken a screenshot here of the couple of articles. This is open access available and it has some really great topics to help people publish. So here, writing and publishing advice, selecting a topic, overcoming writing apprehension, writing resources. These are just recent examples. So I'd encourage you to go online and have a look. Okay, I'm just going to, in the last part of the presentation, just tell you a little bit about our mental and critical care health research node. We developed this node around about 2.5 years ago. It was when you sustain a burn injury, it's one of the most traumatic, dehumanizing injuries an individual can experience. And so we systematically gone about this program of research with a number of collaborators to combine mental health, critical care health and burns. And so we started off looking at knowledge translation and did some work around this area. And we've also published a paper around knowledge translation in mental health care of burns patients. And we also thought really key in terms of our mark notes. So we had symposiums. So we ran one in 2018 and we had a pre-conference workshop and we had some invited speakers from overseas as well as some national and local speakers. And we ran that conference this year, which we just had recently. Again, it was a really great success. We were really delighted with the way it went. So we decided to use a bit of a promotion strategy for collaborations for critical care burns in editorials. And we've also had a program of editorials for the Journal of Advanced Nursing, looking at suicide by charcoal burning, acid burn attacks as well. We've looked at building purpose-burn centres. We've undertaken intricate reviews on critical care polyneuropathy, and these are with colleagues locally, nationally and from overseas. We've also looked at device technology as well, cauliflower ear. You can see the picture there. And we've looked at areas like trends and risk factors for mortality in elderly burns patients. Just recently, we just published a calendula for wound healing as well, a review. We've looked at guilt, shame and blame affected by burns, and we've also looked at it with our Norwegian counterparts, looking at it in terms of hospitalised children. We've undertaken a national study looking at burns care and rehabilitation, and also a systematic review looking at burns cancer, burns survivors. We've also looked at insecure attachment style and type D personality, which are important for recovery. As you can see, we've had a pretty busy couple of years. We've looked at cosmetic camouflage, and another area of our work has been around substance use disorders as well. That's often quite high, which I'm just going to fix through these. Just mindful that I've got a little bit of time left. Part of it as well has a mental health focus, so part of the collaborations are often with overseas people, where we've looked at, for example, safe environments and mental health in Iran. We've done some work around collaboration and family caregivers or caregivers, behaviour problem solving training, raising adolescents. We've also looked at topical areas as well regarding the mental health plight of refugee children and unaccompanied asylum seekers. One of the current areas of focus at the moment is trauma-informed care, and this can include child sexual abuse, and we've done some work around training and evaluation in those areas, implementing trauma-informed care. We're at the moment developing a model of trauma-informed care as come with our collaborators. And finally, obviously one of the really key elements to all of this underpinning is the importance of building a strong and capable workforce, and that means resilience and emotional intelligence for all health professionals, and that's a big area, as well as co-production, looking at how we involve peer support workers or people who have first-hand experience. So we've done some work in that area as well as suicide. And a project that's been very dear to our heart is looking at women in health academia and how we can better support and mentor females as well. So that's been a large focus of our work. I also involved in regular columns. I wrote columns every month for issues in mental health nursing. So if anybody else has some ideas and wants to collaborate, I'm always happy to hear them. So just in wrapping up, it's really important to be open to new collaborations, that we model leadership to have successful research collaborations and dissemination, that we value relationships because they are the foundation of change. We have an inclusive group team orientation. We maintain trust within our groups. We influence people in the organisation. We have a future orientation, and we always motivate for better care. And we challenge routines, standard procedures, priorities, and thinking. We also need to support others by coaching, teaching, and facilitating learning. So, some of the essential strategies for the career are being strategic in the career study, know what's valued in terms of services and roles, always be professional, so I can enjoy the spoils, like in published papers. We all should share the toil, and that is undertake peer review and be involved. It doesn't have to be journals, it can be grants, being involved in conference scientific committees. We need to be able to communicate effectively, like through ResearchGate, and ethically, so we need to be aware of the publication guidelines. We need need to look at our relationships and collaborations and how we can provide teams and brands. They provide lots of learning opportunities and we can build our skills and confidence and not to take things too personally. Often we will get, thinking not the result we want, and it's important to be tenacious. And goodwill, good intention and integrity will be actively with others. So that means we have to moderate our personal interests, so have a can-do attitude, and also it's about giving credit when credit's due. We need to be open to new paradigms as well and willing to learn from others. And as I just mentioned, accept failure, seek advice, respect others, work authentically, accept success with simplicity, and avoid complacency. So for those that haven't got a research mentor, I would strongly encourage you to think about getting somebody or really developing a research career. It's really great. I've had a research mentor and that shifted and changed throughout time. But they do and can provide constructive and collegial professional advice and guidance as well, and give you opportunities to participate in professional development programs and research. And one of the other tips I think that was really important is to write. And so routines are really important to establish each day some time for writing, whether it's 1 hour in the morning. But try and maybe write a paragraph, each day or a couple of paragraphs. But if you get into a routine, it will set you up very well and bode you well for future collaborations. And I guess that it's really important to enjoy the research journey in the sense of perspective and not put your life on hold. So thank you very much for your time and that makes sense.
Thank you very much, Professor Cleary, for that very informative and very inspiring presentation. The floor is now open for questions. We would like to entertain a few questions because we are experiencing time constraint. Anybody who would like to ask questions? So we have one. Okay. Please come to the microphone and please identify yourself.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask Professor Cleary. You said that the topics to boost your career in academics or internationally well known. So you have to create a mutual relationship with other disciplines internationally. So if we think about it, and then how do we put it in perspective? It is a rhetorical thinking that if you want to build your capacity, you have to engage more just on your field. Just keep deep and deep understanding on your field. So maybe you could tell the experiences that how do we make, in collaboration with different field and internationally, so we could make mutual benefits among us. Do you get what I mean?
I think he's referring to how to share your experiences regarding how to establish your professional true collaboration.
But different fields.
In a specific field, like
It's sometimes it takes a little bit of risk. We've written to people or people have written to us. Some of these collaborations have evolved because people have written and said, I'd like to do something, or I've got, we come on board, and we all work together via email or teleconference classes, and they've identified us as having a similar interest, or we've got a similar interest to what they have. Sometimes we might prepare an article, so a good example is something we recently did around a particular topic, and we wrote to colleagues overseas that we know and asked them would they like to come on board. We work with a lot of different disciplines and countries, and sometimes reluctant to say no up front to like be more, because you never know where one opportunity leads to another. I would never have anticipated some of the things how I guess snowball. So it's good to keep an open mind as well. But you do need to put yourself out there a little bit. Sometimes contact people, talk about your ideas, get a good research mentor, somebody that can help direct and guide you, and then you take it from there. So you don't have to start off with a massive research project. You can start on little things, meetings, developing ideas, or a grant or an education program, and see how the synergies are, how they work, how it helps it's a good fit, and just grow it. Sometimes these things grow organically as well. But foundational to any good interprofessional collaboration or just a disciplinary collaboration is some of those attributes of this book, and that's trust, and I guess you have to meet the deliverables as well, and respect, and people bring different things to the table. I've heard a lot of people, and yesterday some people were saying, I'm really good at this, but I want to learn about that. And I would say to play to your strengths. None of us are good at everything. We work with people that have expert skills, and they bring something to the table as well. So that's good.
Yeah, very much. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. One last question, please. Maybe we have the lady. Just one. Okay.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm so glad standing in front of you, Prof. Nisha. I'm going to ask about what is your opinion about writing research. What do you think is a good idea to conduct a research at the same field, or it's better to broaden everything? For example, like me, I'm a pediatric nurse. What do you think is a good idea? Just conduct a research in pediatric, or is it a good idea to do community health, mental health, or another thing? What do you think? Thank you.
I think that's a really great question, and I think it's really important that you become known as a pediatric expert, and it's good not to limit yourself as well, because pediatrics, it does extend into different areas. So I don't think we always need to confine ourselves to one setting. For example, mental health is my area, but mental health touches everything. So I'm involved in a range of different areas, even from rooms to other areas. So it's good to grow. But I think it's worthwhile to be recognised as being an expert in one area. But that doesn't mean the continuum of care is not just hospital, it's everywhere, isn't it?
Okay, thank you very much. I know you have more questions to ask Professor Leary, but I would suggest to maybe see her after the presentation. So thank you very much, and I hope we'll learn from her presentation, especially those beginners, those who still starting to establish themselves in writing for publication and in raising their scholarly profile and making them internationally So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for both of you, especially for the Professor Michelle Cleary from University of Tasmania, Australia. Please remain standing still because there is a placard given to you. Please join us, Dr. Mary Neharka, to give the placard to our keynote speakers also, Professor Michelle Cleary. And for Dr. Oscar, thank you so much for leading as our moderator. Please go on stage to give the placard. Thank you so much for Dr. Mary Harta and also for our speakers, Professor Michelle Cleary and also Dr. Oscar from Lisbon University. And ladies and gentlemen, especially for key participants, for your information, for those of you who still not giving and handing the poster to the committee, please give it already. Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the second plenary session. Now we come to the third plenary session given by Professor Nur Salam from Universitas Airlangga Surabaya, Indonesia. And the moderator for this plenary session will be Bu Sri PhD. So please ask the moderator to come on stage and please introduce our speakers before Professor Nur Salam comes on stage. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you for still being here to listen to our third presenter for today, keynote speaker for today. I'm going to read his biography before he started the presentation. Professor Nur Salam, he lives in Jalan Putih, Tegal Timur, Surabaya. And he studied his education in Diploma 3 Nursing in 1988 and then continued to Bachelor of Nursing in 1991 in Lambton College, Sarnia, Ontario, Canada. And then he did his Master of Nursing in University of Wollongong, New South Wales, Australia in 1969. And in 96, and then in 1997, he continued to honors Master of Nursing still in University of Wollongong, New South Wales, Australia. And in 2005, he graduated from a doctoral degree in postgraduate program at Andalas University. He has a very long working experience in nursing associations as well as in nursing education. Started from 5-hand education and training from Indonesian Nurses Association in 2000 to 2010. And then he also was a head School of Nursing, Faculty of Medicine, Universitas Airlangga in 2007 to 2008. And then he also was a nursing manager in Airlangga Universitas Airlangga Hospital and head of education and training for Nursing Association in Jakarta, and currently he is a Dean of Faculty of Nursing in Universitas Airlangga. He has around 20 books publication publications. Professor Rosal, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, syukurillah, la haula wala quwwata illa billah. Yang saya hormati Ibu Dekan, Prof. Lisana, the special guest Prof. Michelle from Tasmania, our colleagues from Oman, many deans di Fakulti of Unpad Koeni, Bu Fitri, and others yang tidak bisa sebutkan. Since this morning we are talking about the research, so I think that everybody has experience about the research itself. Because when we are talking about the research, it's not only on how to do the research, but how to, how to translate research into the practice. So I try to implement how the research can be implemented in the practice itself. I start from here, what's related with the research, service, and also for the practice. So when we are talking about the translation itself, the process of applying, discovering, generating during research, and also how to develop and on study on humans. And also in this that we adopt from the practice. So we have many strategies like Prof. John Bessel explained about mixed methods, and also Prof. Michelle. So way to way to incorporate evidence and research into the real worlds. Just this one is the step that you need to do it, and also the use it, replicate it, and evaluate. So we have abbreviation in research we call like ATM. Say amati, teliti, modifikasi. So this one is the kind of thing when we do for how to implement this. So we need to use it. Did it change in behavior? Did it have impact on practice? Like Bu Dekan said, so what we are talking about the professionalism. We are talking about everything in nursing, but is there any impact, especially in practice, not only in Indonesia, but also in overseas? For example, when our graduates, how graduates work in Japan, in Oman, for example. So especially the recognition for registration itself. So talking about that we only have in the research usually, but it is hard to implement in the practice. Next one, just review about the evidence. What's the relationship between research and evidence? Because every time you utilize finding of the completed research to change and validate your practice, this is the evidence. So these two concepts are not interchangeable, but are directly related. So I think that we have done for evidence-based, and also this is the correlated with the practice itself. So I think that the statement is good from Asistelis that we need is only teaching the student to be smart, but we need to teach our students to be good, especially when they graduate from bachelor degree, from master degree. They have to be good, especially they can create. It's not only creates the good environment, but also to create the good practice itself. So like this one, I think we need to move, because in the 1st of September on Sunday, 1 Muharram is Hijrah. So we need to Hijrah. Like make God itself. So what is that? Because usually we always use for quantitative reasons. We use for cross-sectional. Okay? We use on quantitative reasons. The question is, this kind of method is born or implemented in the hospital, in the practice. So we need to have the new ideas and think on this one. So why we need to develop and also frequently practice on this one? Because growing body of knowledge, body of scientific knowledge, the increased interest, especially in the hospital now, we have the program of SNAS, so focus on quality services. And then increased interest in outcome and accountability by finance, and because they work. So that's the point, because they work. So I think we can try to apply, especially in clinical settings, not only in the hospital, but we can also for the community. So I think this is the familiar that we evidently have for best list evidence. So what is the practice? And also what's the assumption and the opinion of the clinical expertise, the judgment, and also from the patient value itself. So this one, when we are talking about this one. And this is when merging the science and evidence-based into the practice. So we have from the three things, because the truths, we always say is based on the three things. Yeah? When we try to make clinical therapy, we try to have from the recent evidence, okay, based on you can use for quantitative or qualitative, and also from patient preferences and values, and also from clinical expertise or clinical judgment. And then we have to make a decision to practice it. So I think this one is more familiar. I'm not continuing on this one, but just reviewing. I think this forming good question for evidence. So this one also in medical we have from evidence we can look at on this one. Okay, can we look on this one? So just we try to, for example, from here we have the case from nursing case about the infection prevention. In the infection prevention here, so I try to, number one is the data itself. So we have in the world that we have kind of patients, and then we try to have what's kind of the most problem appear for this patient. So look at, assuming that we have with this patient, all of the patient always have the problem for skin integrity, for example, or pet sore or others. You can look at this one. This one is the problem. And then the principle in SNAS, we usually, why this one become a problem, they have the criteria for high risk, high cost, and also high follow. So the number, the risk, and also the average level of stay itself. So this one become the priority for looking for the problem. And then number one is we look at on the recent evidence from the theory. So you look at the study related to for example, hepatitis or skin infection. So you browsing on this one, and then by using for PICOT, say problem, intervention, comparison, outcome, and the theory. That's it. Then you look at this one. You show that this one study has been done in the world. You know, it's not only in Indonesia, but also in the world, and also it will be great if also study in Indonesia. And try to make like this one. And then this one from evidence, from clinical. And look at in the word for instance, we have the patient. Many patients, and then we have the P is patient characteristic, and then what kind of intervention. Especially related to how to prevent the hepatitis for Kanulu, especially for anti-line. So just focus on how preventing the hepatitis anti-lines. And then the comparison from this one, and what's the outcome. And also this one is we try to state the target and the theory itself. Okay, this one. Number two from clinical practice. Number one is from the theory, and then from clinical practice. And then number three, we need to listen, to discuss, consultation with expert panels. So I mean, when you are talking with client-centered evidence-based practice, especially clinical, you can discuss with the medical doctor specialist, for example. We can discuss with nurse specialist, or you also can discuss for policy maker. Because when we try to translate our finding without discussing, without consultation, it is impossible that our research can be applied to the clinic, to the community itself. So we discuss. Okay, this one just and stay why we need it's not only the method for cross-sectional for quantitative explanatory answer, but we need also from the evidence. Number two, just review, especially for our colleagues, ya, teman-teman semuanya. So we have the problem especially in doing for research. Ya, kita sama-sama ya persoalan. So number one, when we doing for research, actually we need to have, I have the abbreviation, sorry in Indonesia, MMP. MMP is start from the problem, from masalah. And then the next one, we have the methods. We do not think about the method if the problem is not clear. Is that suitable to be the research problem, or this is just a nursing problem, problem? So we need to have this one. So that's why in my books I write to how to decide how to start the problem for research from the problem until we find this one. So how to do this one? This one, when we are going to formulate a research problem, especially from the area, like from research from psychiatric, for example. So I interested in psychiatry. And then what's kind of the case in psychiatry? And then when we formulate for number three for the problem, we need to have the area. The area in psychiatric, especially, for example, in schizophrenia and others. And then number B is we try to make kind of spider web. And number C is very important. We need to have the original research related to our interested in the problem. So this one is my step when we're doing for number 1 is masalah until we write down for literature review, and then number 5 is for framework, and then the objective, and then we try to state the topic, the area. Okay, this one just okay, our college sama saja teman-teman. So when we try to have a good problem, remember 3 things, ya. Jadi kalau nanti kita mau masuk ke Scopus, mau masuk kemana, number 1 is novelty. Jadi kebaruan. We cannot replicate. Kita banyak teliti, kadang berapa persen. But the topic is important because it should be have a novelty. So how to make the novelty? Nah, startnya adalah, for example, we study on, for example, in insomnia for elderly. So we browsing the insomnia references in Scopus or others international journal talking about insomnia. Just limited, the key is about insomnia for elderly. And then you look at this one. You cannot replicate, you cannot just say with this kind of topics. So I think that's the point. That's everybody start before we just have the topic, but we need to have a good for novelty and also for the references. Dan in references, ini juga perlu saya sampaikan, it should be the credible reference. For example, we cannot just write references from, thesis, dissertation, sama skripsi. It should be from article. Jadi referensi itu harus dari artikel, not from the blog. Kalau artikel, at least kalau kita ingin dapat hibah ya, saya yakin teman-teman yang dapat hibah 250 juta, 300, 250 funding by the governments. So we need to have at least high index for 3, jadi minimal punya high index 3. Nah, from the beginning, Anda mungkin yang masih memulai nanti. So try to gather the references that quote the credible reference. Number 1 is from international journal, reputation. Contohnya ada Scopus. It is impossible we are to submit our article, but we didn't cite it from this index. Jadi kita nggak mungkin kalau kita mau submit, tapi kita nggak mensitasi sama sekali. Itu the point. Ya. Harus kredibel, 5 tahun terakhir, dan itu harus bereputasi, bukan sembarang jurnal. It's not only in Google and then you take it. And number 2 from national accreditation. Jadi minimal harus national accreditation. At least Sinta 2, misalnya di ini ada Sinta 2, ada di UI, ada di Unpad yang nursing di UNER. Nah, ini nilai. I ask to my students, at least 70 to 80% is from the article. Only 20% from the books. It's not only books. Jadi book yang punya keluarga edukasi. So this one I think the quality will be great. And number 3, saya pesan pada teman-teman semuanya, when we do for example for quantitative, explanatory, misalnya ada explanatory, ada explanatory. For cross-sectional, ya, quantitative. So the sample, I request you to minimum you have more than 100 sample. Jadi no less from this. And then the variable, you need to have at least 3 variable. Jadi 3 variabel. Jangan sampai kita hanya hubungan A dengan B. So from here we can trick. Jadi nanti kita bisa baca. Kalau tadi misalnya Prof John tadi mengatakan explanatory, berarti kuanti, kemudian kuali, kemudian bisa diintervensi. Kuantinya bisa, kualinya juga bisa. Exploratory, jadi explore tadi, kuali bisa dibuat juga. Nah, kalau kuali sambalnya kira-kira 12. Jadi itu jangan kurang dari itu. Kalau kuanti tadi yang cross seksional, sambalnya harus berapa? Ya, kalau bisa 200, 300 itu akan sangat banyak. Nah, dari mana itu kita dapat banyak artikel itu? So you can supervise. Jadi bimbingan kita ini bisa kita angkat untuk di situ. Ya, yang S1 bisa yang S2. Nah, ini yang harus nanti kita share ya. Sehingga di kami misalnya ada namanya reworking, bisa tadi matur kebudekan atau reworking from student thesis, student ya. So and then we have two article submission. In one year we can have the article almost at least 50 or 70 from Scopus Index. Jadi kita bisa menghasilkan 70 sampai 100 yang di Scopus. Tahun ini kita bisa sudah sampai angka 60, tambah 40, 50 lagi. So this one, I mean the easy one, how to to get publication for education. Because without this one, you cannot apply for the funding from the government for Ministry of Dikti, ya, to get the high index tree. Jadi high index itu dari situ tadi. Saja kayak artikel kita nanti diindeks oleh lain, makanya kemarin saya katakan ini budekan, we have a research gate, and the research gate just click this one and then you will get free downloads our article. Nanti coba di research gate cyber campus and then you can directly get this one. And we sit this, jadi kita saling mensitasi. Saya mensitasi tulisan Bapak Ibu mensitasi tulisan saya. Itu yang untuk meningkatkan ini. Ya, nanti Bapak Ibu lihat di Google nanti ID-nya berapa. Tapi harus masuk Scopus dulu semuanya ID Scopus, ID Google, ID Sinta. Kalau tidak itu nanti kita nggak bisa. Ya, dosen harus dikembangkan in the research. Terus dosen ini kan kerjaannya terus-terusan, bayarannya sukses. So we need to do this. Okay. And the language and others. Okay, this one. Just learning for this one area, the example for spider web, okay? How to to find nursing research problem. This one and from this one, I think it will be easy. And this one, the important thing, I think, let's say we have we are going to implement the adik-adik, and then we have like this one. And also we will have the original research about this. All this, yeah, for elderly also. So the elderly, especially for the memory here, so we need to have the article, the reference like this one. We call asli. So in my student, I put this one in chapter 2, especially tinjauan besar. Itu compulsory. Kalau S2 itu at least 15. Kalau S1 10. Kalau S3 25 minimal. So to make strong, ya. Kemudian and also from literature review also we need to use for kind of theory, yeah, that you use for this. Okay, I skip this one. I continue to how to the example. Sorry, continue. Yes. Okay, this one just the example how to translate the result of the research into the practice. Okay, this one is our research. Battery. Okay. Plug. Okay, this one I have a difference. Ini beda step kalau mau mengimplementasikan ini sama dengan yang Prof John said. Number one is I I have a research approach on quantitative. Ya, ini kuantitatif, jadi explanatory. In quantitative here, I just, for example, I'm going to have clinical pathway in CVA infarct. Jadi saya ingin lihat clinical pathway, clinical infarct berbasis diagnosis perawatan. Jadi nanti diagnosis perawatan diletakkan di situ. For explanatory, jadi metodenya pertama adalah kuantitatifnya by evaluate the clinical pathway infarct based on SDKI yang ada kita, standar diagnosis perawatan Indonesia sama SIKI, standar intervensi perawatan Indonesia. Di evaluate, we can do for retrospective. Apakah itu rekam medis atau yang di rumah sakit namanya CPPT, catatan perkembangan pasien terintegrasi. Or you can use for for survey for the patient directly or nurses. Ini kuantitatif, jadi kayak cross sectional apa yang terlaksana yang terjadi. And then number 2 here is developing. Jadi mengembangkannya alat tadi, mengembangkan kayak tadi infeksi misalnya itu melalui hasil penelitian. Jadi menyusun develop the clinical pathway for CVA infarct patient through. Nah ini mulai setelah data pertama terkumpul dengan kuantitatif, kita akan menyusun pengembangan melalui apa? Melalui yang kita namakan dengan bisa fokus diskusi. Tadi yang saya katakan, because we need support from clinical. Supaya nanti diterima, kalau kita nggak fokus group discussion atau diskusi pakar, apa nggak sesuai. Yang ini namanya. Ini ada diskusi pakar, and then we have validity and reliability. Nanti saya contohkan. Ini hanya tahapan aja. The first step sampai ke uji validasi. The second step di sini adalah socialization. Jadi hasil tadi kita sosialisasikan. Nah, sosialisasikan kita dampingi untuk penerapannya, baik di rumah sakit, in the clinics, or in the community. Like the approach in knowledge management, we have SECI namanya. Singkatnya SECI adalah socialization. E-nya adalah externalization. Jadi setelah diberikan penjelasan, dia akan mempraktek. Sesuai dengan combination, jadi adalah taksit to taksit, taksit to explicit, explicit to explicit, explicit to taksit. I-nya internalization itu adalah sudah menjadi kebiasaan.
Sorry, Profesor.
1 minute? 2 menit. Ya, no. Pertama nanti evaluasi, telusur. Kita lihat di sini. Nah ini. So, ya. Ini caranya evaluasi nanti. Kita lihat di situ. Kemudian ini. Jadi aspek clinical pathway, standar isinya seperti apa? Kita lihat di situ. Kemudian rekam medis kita telusur retrospektif bulan Juni sampai dengan November. From Juni to November ada 122 kasus. Ini yang kuantitatif yang saya katakan. Ya. Nah dari situ nanti kita lihat diagnosis, nursing diagnosis, jenis diagnosisnya, kategorinya, frekuensinya. Kita ambil 5 besar nursing diagnosis. Seterusnya, sama nanti di dalam psiki juga gitu. Ya, kemudian di intervensi juga begitu. Pada masa dari stroke, infark, apa intervensi yang dilakukan? Nah kita ambil 5 besar. Nah dari situ nanti. Kemudian nanti kita dari sini ada prosentase. Jadi real. Nah setelah itu baru kita membuat clinical pathway. Tadi yang saya katakan ada FGD, ada diskusi pakar seperti ini. Ya. And also for intervention, we use for OTK, ya, observation, treatment, education, collaboration. And okay, step 1 like this one. ya. Jadi ada presentasi, evaluasi komponen, and then I will show you this one for the last. So we have cross-sectional, and then we have a qualitative for this one, and then the last one we have for experiment. Try buat the modul. Jadi modelnya tadi diterapkan betul. After this, and then recommendation, because my topic is about recommendation from focus to discuss. So what kind of recommendation? This one. That's difference. Ini buktinya, kebaruannya, implementasi clinical pathway yang tidak ada yang merah-merah. There is no red written like this one. In clinical pathway original, now we have this one. Look at the nursing diagnosis, and then we have 5 nursing diagnoses. So this one, the real example how to implement for this one, and then for CT, there is no intervention in nursing because it is start training only in clinical pathway, and then we have this one. Look at this one, and for outcome criteria, we also have this one. So that's at least can have the illustration. Ya. Jadi teman-teman, saya ingin terakhir, bagus, berikan ilustrasi pada teman-teman semuanya how to translate research into practice. So our strategy, like Prof. John said, that explanatory you can use for explanatory, or you can exploratory, kualitatif dulu baru kuantitatif. But we need to have like focus to discuss. We need to have konsultasi pakar. Nah, itu yang nantinya ini akan digunakan semuanya. Oke, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much. It's a very inspiring presentation. Due to time constraint, I'll give two questions probably. Yes, one and another one. Not yet? Okay. Sorry? Okay, there are two.
Thank you very much for the chance. My name is Anita. I would like to ask about 2 questions here. One is, according to your experience, Professor, do you have one example of hospital that they use the clinical pathway in the clinical practice? And also the second one is, according to your opinion, do the clinical pathway should be used in all medical diagnosis? Thank you.
Thank you. You want to answer first or the second one? Okay, second questions, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the time. Very interesting topic about how to translate research into practice. But maybe I want to know, based on your experience, what is the strategy we can make our research will be applied in the clinical setting, because there are many nurses do the research in the clinical setting, but the end of the research, it is very difficult to make clinical team and other profession can receive our research. Sometimes maybe nurse look like not personal maybe in the research. How to do that and how our strategy for that. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I think the questions are clear.
Thank you.
Please.
Malika, do you have experience? Yes. This one is I implemented this into hospital, in Sidoarjo Hospital and also in Erlangga Hospital. So at the first time when developing the clinical pathway, I involved in this. Jadi saya terlibat dalam itu interprofesional, medical doctor, and also it's not only nurse but also pharmacist. Because in this medical pathway, we have a four profession. Ada dokter, ada perawat, ada farmasi, ada gizi, fisioterapis, dan itu kita desain. Nah, form tadi sudah standar, international SNARS, jadi standar nasional internasional sudah seperti itu. Yang saya nyalain tadi ya enggak ada hasil semua itu. Ya, so how to implement so that it can be accepted by profession, ya, profesional. Like our step, jadi seperti tahapan saya tadi, kalau kita ini termasuk tahapan nomor 1, pertanyaan nomor 1, kedua, number one, we need to evaluate. Jadi kita harus mengevaluasi masalah itu apa yang terjadi di pelayanan. Nah, after we find out the problem and then we present this problem, kita presentasikan masalah ini through focus group discussion, or we can after this we also have the expertise consultation. Jadi diskusi pakar. Nah, focus group discussion of course from decision making. Jadi ada pengambil keputusan. Ya, nanti nggak mungkin kalau riset hanya dikembangkan this one, it is impossible. Okay, after this, and then we try to make this kind of one. Okay, after this, and then try to validate and reliability. Diuji dulu dulu. And then we have for socialization. Jadi terus di socialization kita dampingi tadi yang mendekati, saya menggunakan pendekatan namanya SETI, socialization, externalization, combination, and SETI is internalization. Jadi kalau nanti dilihat di knowledge management ada taksit to taksit, taksit to eksplisit, eksplisit to eksplisit, eksplisit to taksit. Ini pendekatan dalam pembelajaran. Nah, socialization, and then we try to implement this one untuk membandingkan apakah ini lebih baik apa enggak terhadap untuk pelayanan, misalnya gitu. Kita lihat di situ. Nah, setelah itu kita evaluasi, kita rekomendasikan lagi FGD lagi pada pimpinan dan para ahli spesialis misalnya yang terlibat. And then disetujui baru kita ini yang sebagai kalau sebenarnya ada namanya pedoman panduan kebijakan sama SPO. Jadi saya dulu di rumah sakit kebetulan si bertanggung jawab itu, jadi selama 5 tahun saya belajar banyak bagaimana implementasi and no gap. Jadi nggak ada gap antara kita dengan spesialis dengan mengambil kebijakan. Itu menurut saya yang harus dilakukan. Without this it is difficult, especially implemented in Indonesia. Saya jawab. Jadi bagaimana strateginya kita adalah menurut saya itu. Ya, jadi ada 6 langkah tadi mungkin jadi catatan bagi kita. So, terus kemudian apa metodenya? Tadi saya katakan metode yang sebenarnya pertama adalah kuanti. Saya kuanti dulu. Setelah kuanti, ada yang mix, ada yang kuali dulu, ada setelah itu kuanti untuk melihat tema atau variabel tadi. Nah, baru nanti kita ada fokus group discussion dan selesai. Itu mix, jadi bisa kuanti, kuali, nanti ada menyusun bareng-bareng. I also have now scholarship published accepted in Scopus as well for predicting risk score. Jadi untuk memprediksi risiko jantung. Yang selama ini di rumah sakit menggunakan namanya MFS, namanya most fall state. Nah, kita membuat instrumen itu melalui 6 step. Jadi ada prediksi untuk bagaimana respon itu digunakan. Nah, oke, kira-kira itu Mbak Dika yang bisa saya jawab. Terima kasih.
Okay, I think we still have time if there's anyone want to ask again questions. No more? Maybe we are very tired until now and we can't wait to go outside and
have something to enjoy. Okay, so
For the moderator, Ibu Kusini and Professor Nursalam, and please remain standing still because there is a placard given, and by this opportunity will be given by Ibu Feti Priscilla, MCAP SPM MA. Please join us on the stage now. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for Professor. And Ibu Feti Priscilla, please remain standing still on the stage with Ibu Kusrini. Ibu Feti, please remain standing still. And we also invite another moderator, Dr. Oscar, and also Ibu Rita Fatmadona. Please come on stage to get the certificate given by Ibu Feti Priscilla. Once again, we would like to invite Ibu Rita Fatmadona and also Dr. Oscar and also Ibu Kusrini PhD to get the certificate given by Ibu Feti Priscilla, MCAP, SPM MA. Ibu Rita Fatmadona, please come on stage to get the certificate given by Ibu Feti Priscilla. For the session. Well, thank you so much, Ibu Feti Priscilla, for giving the certificate to our moderator, Ibu Kusrini, PhD. Thank you so much for leading this plenary session given by Professor Nursalam. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you still awake? Once again, ladies and gentlemen, are you still awake? Okay, would you like to stand up, please? Would you like to stand up, please, to make sure that you are still awake and with me, your master of ceremony, the one and only. Okay, listen to my instruction carefully. Raising up your hands. Back to normal position. Jump. Jump. Right? Now, raising up your left hand. Back to normal position. Raising up your right hand. Back to normal position. Now have a seat, please. Okay, because I just want to know between left and right hand position. It means your brain is still processing so well. So give a round of applause to all of them. Well, dear all participants, we have already wrapped up our plenary session of day 1 from the first, second, and third, starting from Professor John W. Creswell, Professor Michelle Cleary, and Professor Nursalam. Thank you so much for that, and we wish you have new horizon of knowledge toward the lecture given. So ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, please listen to me carefully. Please listen to me carefully because I would like to give you several important informations to make sure that there is no such a confusion happens. Please, scientific committee, stand up with me. Please, scientific committee, stand up. Okay, the first information, abstract book, conference program, and evaluation of the conference that you need to sign in and also fill in can be downloaded in inic.fcap.unan.ac.id. Once again, abstract book, conference program, and evaluation form of the conference that you need to fill in can be downloaded through the website of INIC, inic.fcap.unan.ac.id. That's the first information. The second information, we will wait for you at 6